Remember, the unrest, which was sparked by anger over corruption and economic inequality, led to a massive demonstration by Gen Z youth. This forced the resignation of former Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli. Now, in the aftermath, Nepal has appointed Sushila Karki as their interim Prime Minister. Now, in her first public statement, Karki has vowed to follow the demands of the protesters, promising to work towards ending corruption and promoting economic equality. Listen in to what she said.
हाम्रो चाहिँ अब यो आगामी दिनहरुमा यो रेडी युवा पुस्ताको सोच बमोजिम चाहिँ एउटा चाहिँ काम गर्नुपर्ने भएको छ। त्यसैले यो समूहले मागेको कुरा के हो भने भ्रष्टाचारको अन्त्य, सुशासन, गुड गभर्नेन्स र एउटा समान आर्थिक समानताको कुराहरू का मागहरू गरेको हुनाले त्यो पूरा गर्नलाई हामी तपाईहरुले अठोट गर्नुपर्ने अवस्था छ। सक्दो हामीले के गर्यौं भने 6 महिना मात्रै अवधि त्यो भन्दा बढी नबस्ने कुनै हालतमा पनि हामीले कुरा यो आफ्ना काम कारबाही गरेर हामी चाहिँ मुक्त हुने र नयाँ आउने संसद नयाँ आउने मन्त्रीहरूलाई जिम्मेवारी र दायित्व सुम्पिने हाम्रो चाहिँ एउटा हामीले अठोट गरेका छौं। मलाई जहाँसम्म लाग्छ यो अठोटमा यहाँहरुको साथ नपाइकन सम्भव चाहिँ छैन।
Additionally, Karki has met with Nepali officials at Singh Darbar, the government complex partly damaged during the protest. She has acknowledged that her name was brought forward by youth activists, stressing upon the importance of public support for a peaceful transition. Now, as of now, the Nepalese parliament has been dissolved with new elections scheduled for the 5th of March 2026. With us on the broadcast is Major General Sudhakar Ji, Senior Geopolitical and Strategic Defense Expert, joining us live from New Delhi. Thank you so much, sir, for taking our time speaking to us on NewsX World. What we've seen taken place over in Nepal this last week has been nothing short of dramatic. Protests had successfully resulted in the ouster of the former Nepalese Prime Minister, though there was a lot of speculation whether he would resign or not. He did end up stepping down. Now, Sushila Karki, their former Chief Justice, has been sworn in as the interim Prime Minister. What do you think is next for Nepal? There's a lot of hope within the youngsters, the Gen Z youth who came out to protest for change to take place. There's been a lot of turbulence in Nepalese politics, a lot of unemployment, inflation has been high as well. So the youth were rather troubled by the fact that what they've called as nepotism and wealth inequality. So how do you see Nepal tackle this in the next couple of months?
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for getting me to your show. Quick response to your question is, the Honorable Prime Minister, who just taken over as an interim Prime Minister, she has outlined her course of action prior to assumption of his appointment. And she has started from a very tactical level of looking after the families of the deceased, the boys and girls who have passed away during the arson or during the carnage, and giving them some kind of a compensation, to put my expression in her mouth. So that would be the start point. Basically what she meant was, and what I feel as a military man, is that stabilizing the current situation is going to assume topmost priority, number one. Number two, how do you stabilize? You stabilize only when you are in touch with somebody, some leaders on ground who are triggering or sponsoring the events or the violence. So at least the demand of or the aspiration of the groups are known to the Honorable Prime Minister, and she looks into it and prepares a roadmap. So stability would ensure that there is no violence in the entire country as far as possible. One odd thing will take place, and these kind of figures that you were sharing, 72 are fatal, these numbers will keep going up because it's virtually impossible to have overall effective security cover of the country, which is approximately you can say around 900 kilometers by 150 250 kilometers. It's very, very difficult. Third and most important point is how to revive the economy. The economy is in a slum, and employment opportunities are very far and few. Now, this is a long-term perspective which I don't think she will be able to do justice in 6 months' time. However, she can lay out the roadmap, make the initial steps. What initial steps are to be taken? First and foremost is that for a layman's understanding, the inflow and the outflow they have to balance out in a manner that the economy of the country is left progressive. Number one. Number two, there is hardly anything being exported. The main source of economy is tourism. The tourism is totally dead. So therefore, after the normalization of the situation or concurrently, she has to make sure that the tourism department, law and order departments, they work in hand in gloves, and they bring about normalcy, project the normalcy through multimedia platforms to world over, because it's an international kind of a destination. Let people be attracted. Let there be a kind of presentation or showcasing how normal has bounced back. Nepal has bounced back to normalcy. Next point that comes to my mind is that there has to be a political process of negotiation. Until that happens, the the rules-based order or the democracy cannot restore back. As of now, there are three parties. There is a troika sort of thing existing between the communist UPL and the Congress. There has to be a preparation for re-election to be carried out in 6 months' time. And what is that preparation? The people have to be put onto the electoral roll. The election commission has to be revived. They have to actually start getting activated for the re-election. The campaigning season will be around the corner, and the people have to go and exercise their mandate. Last but not the least is that to keep the relationship with the neighbors balanced. Today, what has happened is that Nepal has become a kind of a huge debt trap country of China. China may not be coming out overtly, but huge amount of money has gone in. There is a psychological perception management taking place in China. It has penetrated into the Nepal's way of life. More than 36 Confucius institutes are there where they teach Mandarin, they teach the culture of Han Chinese. There are more than 500 China international radio stations. They're like FM radios. They are installed there. The rail connectivity has come close to Khasa, and there is a highway between Khasa to the further Kathmandu. The infrastructure development is going on. However, the workers seem to be from China. There is also all-out effort by China to make sure that the efforts made by USA to counter, contain, and contest China so that China is kept out of Nepal goes absolutely wasted, and they continue to remain as a predominant force or the country with their footprint in Nepal.
So, a quick follow-up on that note, how do you think then India should navigate this and the change in the government, of course, having taken place now?
Excellent question, Pia. This question is a very relevant question. In my opinion, being a student of geopolitics, security, and strategy, India has to navigate in a very silent manner without making a noise. It is a very sensitive phase. India has to keep in mind as to how things have fortunately bounced back to some degree of normalcy and in favorable terms in Maldives. What the situation in Sri Lanka and Bangladesh are, we have to absolutely be careful and navigate in terms of the following. First and foremost thing is never, never, ever do anything which will reflect that India is imposing on Nepal. Number two, advise only when the advice is actually solicited from Nepal. Number three, the law and order situation, because the spillover of the tourists as also the Tarai region population, because Nepal, when you talk about the low reaches, they are along the border of Bihar and UP. There are a total of 35 checkposts which had come into existence way back in pandemic time. Now, out of 35, 23 are nominated. However, 7 check post, joint check post, they have got immigration facility. I suspect if the situation is not brought under control, there is going to be a huge migration of people from Nepal into the Tarai region and further down south to Bihar and UP. Therefore, our checkposts have to be manned and we have to carry out effective screening. And last but not the least, PR, is that there is an Islamic sphere of influence which is taking place in a significant manner in Nepal. The number of masjids and madrasas have actually multiplied many times in past 2 to 3 years, and there is a large number of NGOs who have come into Nepal and operating in Nepal. And these NGOs, some of them are from Turkey, some of them are from Qatar, and they are operating along the border of Nepal and India under the garb of tree plantation and various other things which are very, very passive in nature, but they have got the potential to actually carry out radicalization spilling over to UP and Bihar. Therefore, we need to be very, very careful, and we should keep our response matrix and the response teams readily available. Should Nepal ask for any kind of request, India should be the first responder to any kind of situation taking place in Nepal.
All right, so with that, I'd like to thank you for taking out time speaking to us on NewsX World as we track what's taking place in Nepal. Meanwhile, we're shifting our focus towards what's happening in Australia. We're now learning that Australia will spend $8 billion to upgrade facilities at the Henderson shipyard near Perth in order to support its future AUKUS nuclear-powered submarine fleet. The Defence Minister Richard Marles has stated that the United States will also have access to the facility, which is being developed as a maintenance hub under the trilateral AUKUS deal with the United States and Britain. Now, the facility will include high-security dry docks to service nuclear submarines and is expected to host rotations of US and UK vessels before Australia takes delivery of the Virginia-class submarines. Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has stated that the shipyard expansion would provide significant benefits for all AUKUS allies. Listen in to what he said.
I'm very pleased to announce that my government will provide $12 billion in new funding for the Henderson Defence Precinct right here in Western Australia. This brings our additional investment in defence over the next decade to $70 billion. When complete, this precinct will deliver continuous naval shipbuilding and AUKUS here in WA. And today's investment is another way we're delivering record defence funding to bolster Australia's capabilities. We're investing in our capability and we're investing in our relationships.
In simplest terms, the Henderson Defence Precinct will be the place that we sustain and maintain our future nuclear-powered submarines, and it will also be the place where we undertake continuous naval shipbuilding in the West. That's what the Henderson Defence Precinct is. And so in that sense, it is very much an Australian sovereign capability, and that is its purpose. But in respect of the maintenance of submarines, it is an AUKUS facility. Now, ultimately,